Hey everybody, today I'm talking about my top 10 games that anybody can play and enjoy. So these are games that are ultra simple, easy to explain. You're normally the rules being able to explain in a minute or less. And because I understand that a lot of people want to play games with maybe particularly young children or particularly elderly relatives, and a lot of the games today, you're not able to do so because they are maybe a bit too complicated and have a little bit too much going on in them. But I think these games that can be taught to anybody and can be enjoyed by anybody. And at the same time, I think even as gamers, you can get some fun out of them. So at number 10, I have Roll For It. So Roll For It is purely a dice rolling game as you're trying to roll dice based on the criteria of certain point scoring cards. So there's going to be a number of cards in the center of the table with different formations of dice on them. So they might say, in order to win this card, you need to roll a 3, 4 or a 5 or maybe 4 6s. And depending on the odds of rolling those, you're going to score, points based on that. So the harder it is to roll something, the more points you're going to get. And it's going to be a race to get to a certain amount of points. But the cool thing about this game is that if you really are struggling to roll something, you can choose to uncommit to it and maybe go for something else instead. And that fun factor of all trying to fight for the same card and who's going to roll that last dice before it's taken away is it's got some fun in there and some embedded player interaction while still being just ultra simple game of pure luck and dice rolling. But a lot of fun, and it accommodates quite a few players as well if you want to play at that higher player count. So number 10 is Roll For It. At number 9, I have Illusion by Wolfgang Warsch. Now this is a really strange game where you're trying to play cards in order based on the coverage of a certain colour on that card. So for example, in a round it might say, this round we're looking at blue, and then every turn you're going to be drawing a card and placing that card in order on what you think has the most blue on it. And because of the formation of the artwork on this card, that is not an easy decision to make, because there's often colours, mixing in and out of each other or crossing over each other and covering each other up. And working out the percentage of that card can be extremely difficult. And all you're going to do is either going to play a new card based on that criteria in the row, or choose to challenge the order of the row. And if you kind of challenge and the order is incorrect, then you're going to get the point. Or if you challenge it and it is correct, then you're going to give that point to the person who's played the card before you. That's all this game consists of. It's a real mind-bending game, and often a game with lots of laughs in it, because as I said, the way that the cards are formulated often play tricks with your mind, and the percentages are really far off, and they were nowhere near what you estimated. And for that, it's a really good fun game that anybody can play. At number 8, I have a party-style game with Dixit. Now Dixit is really kind of engaging game in terms of the way it looks. You've got some real whimsical and fun artwork based on these cards that you're given. So everybody's going to have a hand of cards, and every round somebody is going to be given a clue based on one of the cards on their hand. So you can give like a word or a sentence or a tune or a whistle or something. And you are going to be playing that card down in a pile, and everybody is going to be playing a card from their hand as well based on what you've said. All these cards are going to get mixed up and laid out in front of the players. And then everybody is going to try and vote on who they think the card or who gave the clues card was. And if they get it correct, then they're going to get points. But the trick to this game is that the person who's giving the clue doesn't want to be so obvious that everybody's going to get it. They want to be a little bit vague, because if everybody gets the guess right, then they don't get any points. So you want to be vague enough that not everybody's going to get it, but particular enough that somebody's going to get it. And at the same time, people are going to be playing cards trying to be on the same kind of level as you are, because if people vote for their cards, then they get points as well. And while the point scoring in this game is a little bit more involved, because you score points in lots of different ways, only one person, normally the gamer, is going to have to know how the points work, and everybody else can just sit back and enjoy the activity. And for that reason, I think Dixit is a great game that anybody can enjoy. It has a nice flow to it, just so much fun, and it's just a really pleasant game. And I think this is almost one of those games as well where you don't really care about the scoring, it's just a fun activity. So at number 8, it is Dixit. And at number 7, I have Kariba. Kariba is a little card game where you have this little watering hole with these different numbers on them from 1 to 8. And everybody's going to be given a hand of cards, and those cards consist of 8 different animals numbered from 1 to 8. So the 1 is going to be like the mouse, all the way up to 8, which is the elephant. And every number trumps the number below it. So the 8 trumps the 7 trumps the 6, and so on, all the way down to 1, which trumps the 8, because the mouse scares off the elephant. And the idea is that you're trying to play the cards onto this watering hole, and as soon as a third card or more is played onto one of those slots, then that is going to eat the slot below it, and you're going to take all those cards below it and put it into your score pile at the end of the game. And those score piles are purely based on the number of cards that you have. And this is a game, it's a real fun tactical game, but I think the fewer players playing, it gets a bit more in depth and a bit more hidden layers to it. But again, it's also always one of those games where if you play at the full player count of 4, then it's a bit more chaos and you're just playing cards down, trying to get as many points as you can. Try not to give too much incentive to your opponents, because if you keep playing number 6s down and eating all the numbers below it, then somebody's inevitably going to play a couple of 7s and eat all your 6s. So simple, but it works well. Easy as anything to explain, but the more you play it, the more it kind of develops itself and kind of reveals little layers and little tricks that you can do well at this game with. So for that, number 7 is Kariba. And number 6, I have another party style game with just one. Now this was undoubtedly one of the big hits of a couple of years ago. I think it won the Spiel des Jahres, which is the family weight game of the year. And this one is a game where you're all working together trying to help somebody guess a word. So every round someone's going to draw a card, and that card's going to have a number of words on it. You're going to pick a number based on the word you want, or obviously at random, and everybody's going to give a clue based on that word. So it's a word association game. But the trick to this one is that you don't want to write the same word as anybody else, because if you do, and all this is done secretly at the same time, and if you do write the same word as somebody else, then any words that are the same are taken out of the equation. So they're wiped off, and the person who's receiving the clues isn't going to see those words. So you don't want to be too obvious with your answers, because somebody else might write that, but you don't want to be too far off where the person who's guessing or isn't going to get the word. And it's another one of these games where no matter what you do, you end up having laugh out loud moments, because you inevitably will write the same word as somebody else, no matter how niche you're trying to be. And even if you think, you know what, this word is so obvious that nobody else is going to write it, then everybody thinks the same way and then everybody ends up writing the same word. So one of the simplest party games out there, but I still think one of the best party games out there. And that is because you can play this with absolutely anyone. That is just one at number 6. At number 5, I have Tsuro. Now, Tsuro is a tile placement game where you're trying to stay on the board as long as you can. And you're going to do that by playing these tiles. So at any time, you're going to have a hand of 3 tiles, and you're going to be playing them onto the board. And these tiles have a number of different lines on them. So they're going to be all crossing over each other and going in different ways. And when you place one, you're going to have to move your player piece along the line connecting to your player piece. And as the game develops, everybody's doing the same thing, and inevitably the board is going to get tighter and tighter and tighter until you're going to have to start interacting with each other, which means when you start playing tiles, not only are you going to start affecting your player piece, but you're going to start affecting other player pieces as well. And the idea is you're trying to send all the other players either smashing into each other and eliminating them, or trying to send them off the board where they're going to lose. So it's one of those games where the last man standing is going to be the winner. But it's so simple, it's so much fun, and these big trails that you can end up making are really interesting, as you can end up travelling halfway around the board before going off of it. And it's just easy to understand. It said it's engaging, it only takes about 5 minutes to play, and it accommodates 8 players as well. So one of those games you can teach to anybody, and real good time. That is Tsuro at number 5. Now, at number 4, I have another dice rolling game, this one by Reiner Knizia. This one is Age of War. Now, I've had a lot of success introducing Age of War to new gamers. This one is a game where you are trying to roll these dice in almost in a Yahtzee style, trying to match the criteria on these cards. And these cards are all these different castles with different ways of conquering them. So you might, in order to conquer one castle, you might need to roll, say, 8 swords and a samurai. And if you do that, then you are going to take that as points at the end of the game. But additionally, all these cards have different suits on them, so if you end up collecting all the cards of a certain suit, then you get bonus points as well. But as these cards get gobbled up, you might want to start taking cards of other people. So even though you've won something, you can end up challenging somebody else for the castle they've already won by not only rolling what they've rolled, but by rolling an additional samurai. And it works in this way where you're trying to match the symbols row by row in any order, but if you don't ever roll a symbol, you end up eliminating one of the dice from your dice that you're rolling, meaning you're also going to get smaller and smaller And it's really fun. It's a good back and forth, and for such a simple dice rolling game, that extra layer of almost nastiness and player interaction makes this game, it kind of takes the game to the next level and adds that fun factor into it. And yeah, as I said, I've had a lot of luck for this one and a lot of success introducing this one. And I think it plays up to 6 players as well, which is nice. That is Age of War at number 4. At number 3, I have Marrakech. Marrakesh is almost has a real nostalgic, fun toy factor to it, as everybody is controlling this, I suppose, carpet salesman in the middle, in this board made up of all these different squares. And you're going to roll the dice, and you are going to move a number of places equal to the result of that die roll. And the idea is that you can either move, you keep him in the direction he's going, or rotate him 90 degrees. And wherever you land, you end up placing a piece of carpet of your colour. And as the game goes on, the board is going to get filled up with more and more carpet. But if you ever land on another player's piece of carpet, then you have to pay them coins equal to the number of spaces that piece of carpet is connected to of the same piece of carpet. So as the game develops, you can end up having a huge coverage of the board of your particular piece of carpet. And if anybody lands on them, you're going to get a huge bunch of coins in return. And, you know, it's a constant kind of battling for coverage on the board as you're trying to cover up other people's rugs and trying to break up their big areas so you don't have to pay them too much money if you land on them. And it's so simple but so much fun. And I think it's a little bit of a hidden gem as well. So that is Marrakech at number 3. At number 2, I have my second game by Wolfgang Warsch. This one is The Mind. So there's a lot of discussion on The Mind of whether it's a game or not, but I think it is. I mean, you win or you lose. And this one is another game where you're working together, but this one you are doing so in silence. So you're not allowed to communicate with your teammates whatsoever, and everybody's going to get given a number of cards based on the round you're on. And the idea is you're trying to play these cards in numerical order from 1 to 100. Obviously with gaps being in between. So in round 2 you have 2 cards each, in round 3 you have 3 cards each. And all you're trying to do is trying to get a feel for each other in order to play these cards without any kind of disruption in the order in which they're played. For example, you might have a hand of say 1 and then 23, and then your opponent might have the 22 and the 46. And you need to play your 1, and then your opponent will play the 23, and then you'll play the 24, and so on. But the interesting thing about this game is that you might think, oh, that's not a game, that's just a pure luck fest. But it's one of those games where the more you play it, you just get in sync with your teammates, and you can't really explain why it works the way it does. And I've had so much fun with this game, and I really do kind of sing or praise this game from the rooftops, really, because I just think, if you want to play a game, you play for fun, and this game offers that. Yes, it's not got any strategy or anything like that in it, and it really is just a game of getting the feel for each other, but it just works, and I can't really explain why. And I think it's one of those games you just need to check out. So the only rule you need to know in this game is that you need to play your cards in order, and that's it. So much fun, a real good time, and just by the end of the game, but when you start playing the game, you end up just making mistakes all the time. But the more and more you play it, you end up playing maybe 20 or 30 cards in a row without making a single mistake, and you can't quite explain how you're doing it, but it just works. Great game, and I love it. That is The Mind at number 2. And finally, at number 1, I have a game that I talk about all the time. This is No Thanks. No Thanks for me is not only one of the best filler games in terms of being a 10 to 15 minute game, but it's one of the best filler games because it is so easy to teach. This one, you have one of two choices to make every single time it's your go. All you're going to do is you're going to either put a token on a card, or you're going to take the card. And the idea of the game is you're trying to get as few points as you can, because the person with the least points is going to be the winner. So every round there's going to be a card that's revealed to all the players, and that card is going to have a number on it from, I think it's 3 up to say 36, 36 being the highest amount of points you can possibly take, which is not a good thing. But all you're going to do is I'm going to choose to take that card in front of you, or you're going to put a token on it. And when you put a token on it, it just means that you're passing on taking it, which means it goes on to the next player to make that choice. But every token you play on it is an incentive for your opponents to take the card, because not only do they count as a negative 1 point, so again, every token you put on it is making that card less punishing to take, but it also means that you're going to have more opportunity to pass on future cards, because when you take that card, you're going to take all the tokens on it as well that's already been placed, which means, as I said, you can pass on future cards with a lot more ease, and as I said, every token is going to be a negative point, which is a good thing. And not only that, it has an additional wrinkle to the game where if you collect sequences of cards, then you only score the lowest card in that sequence. So if you scored, say, a 26, a 27, 28, and 29, then you would only score the 26 because you only score the lowest card in that sequence. But if you had a break in that row, so you had a 26, 27, a 29 and 30, then you'd score the 26 and the 29. And it's kind of got a bit of push your luck in it as you're trying to fill in those gaps. But that real visceral decision of whether am I going to take that card and take all the tokens on it, or am I going to pass up and waste more chances of being able to pass, which means that in future rounds I might get shafted with a card that I really don't want. A great game, one of my instant hits with anybody I introduced this to. Whoever I play this to has enjoyed it, because it is just so easy to understand, but still has real compelling and fun decisions, and absolutely no convolution, no unnecessary rules, no fiddliness, and just no scope for losing interest in this one. And that's why that is my #1 game that anybody can play. So I hope you've enjoyed this top 10 list. I've quite enjoyed talking about these games, because I understand, not everybody wants to play a strategic game that takes, 2 hours to play. And again, these ones are where you can play with absolutely anybody. So if you have enjoyed the list, please hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos too. For everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.